Hey guys, so I just got finished watching the movie Hush on Netflix. Now, this movie, along with the movie Babadook, was one of the most requested movies I've had over the last year or so. Like with Babadook, it's been for the last 3 years. This movie came out a year ago. And it was a movie that fell under the radar, really, for me, because I had no idea about this until people started telling me about it. Like a year ago. Like I had no idea about anything about this movie before somebody had mentioned it to me. Like I kept getting like people at work telling me, "Oh, have you seen this movie Hush? It's really fucking good. It's like a really creepy horror movie. Like, what's it about? It's a home invasion thriller." I'm like, "Oh, it's still like I am tired of home invasion movies. Like, it's one of those genres, like along with zombie movies, that if I never see another one, I'll be okay. Like for the next few years, I'll be okay with that." But as like, but I'm like, but then I looked online about this movie, and like part of me, like anytime somebody recommends me a movie, like especially a horror movie, I kind of take it with a grain of salt, because it's like most of the time it's movies that are really fucking stupid. Like I remember people were recommending to me like back in like 10 years ago when The Grudge came out, the American remake, and that movie fucking sucked. I remember everybody just raving about it. Like all my friends raving about it, and I've watched it. Like, really? This is it? Fuck you. It's like, and stuff like that in the Ring. I'm like, fuck you. The Ring is better than The Grudge, but anyways, yeah, I was like, I really wasn't planning on watching it until I looked it up online, and I saw the reviews for this movie were fantastic, like 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, holy shit, this has got to be good then. And I read the plot of the movie, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of a unique twist on like a home invasion thriller. I said, okay, you got my interest. And then I looked at who was directing it. It's Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan is the guy who made Oculus and Ouija Origins of Evil. And and right at this moment, he's currently becoming one of my favorite fucking horror directors. Like, easily right now. He also made that movie Before Awake. That's the only one I haven't seen. I heard it sucked, and it looked like it kind of did suck, but I'm kind of curious to see it. And he also just made movies Gerald's Game, which I haven't seen yet, which I hear is good too. It's just like, man, this guy's just like knocking it out of the park lately. And I'm like, okay, this has got to be good then. This sounds like a recipe for a damn good movie. Like I was kind of out of all the movies I was gonna see this with this October for this horror movie reviews. This was the one I was probably looking forward to the most, and I highly fucking recommend this movie if you have not seen this thing. It's on Netflix. It's only an hour and 20 minutes. And it's intense as shit. This movie is great. This is one my only regret is I didn't see this like last year, because this probably would have made my top 10 list easily. This was a damn good movie. This was a really good movie. If you're like me who's sick of home invasion movies, don't worry. This movie's pretty goddamn good. Like, it makes you kind of a fan of home invasion movies again. If you don't know the plot, this is all you kind of need to know is the plot for this movie. It's about this movie. This movie is about a girl who is deaf and a mute, and she lives in a secluded cabin or secluded house by herself in the woods. Like, really not many people around her, and she's kind of secluded from her family. Except she has, like, a couple neighbors next door. That's about it. And she She's a writer who's trying to write her next book and come up with the next ending, or the ending to her next book, and is having trouble doing that. And just one night, out of the blue, some guy with a fucking crossbow and a fucking or like a fucking hunter's knife comes to her house and starts stalking her. And it's a recipe for what easily is one of the best home invasion fucking movies I've seen in a damn long time. The girl in this movie, Kate, it was a Katie Siegel, Kate Siegel or whatever her name is fantastic. Like, I had to look it up as like, is she really deaf and mute, or is like, I had to look it up. I'm like, cause she's really good. Like, does this very well. Like, and I'm like, no, she isn't. Like, she's actually married to the director Mike Flanagan. I'm like, well, usually when you have like one of those like directors that puts his wife in a lot of movies, that could result in bad performances because of nepotism. This is not one of those cases. She is really goddamn good in this thing. She is like, you're rooting for this character. This character is like really likable, and like she does a really good job using her facial expressions, looking scared as shit. And she's also really resourceful. I loved how it's like she obviously can't hear, and that makes it worse than any pretty much any home invasion scenario that you've seen in any movie, because the killer basically has the advantage because he can just sneak around her house. There's a great fucking scene at the beginning where she's just on her computer trying to type her ending to her new book, and the killer just walks just right fucking in, and she can't hear a damn thing. And he's just slowly coming up to her and about to stab her, and her sister ends up FaceTiming her, and he runs away. And I was like, that was kind of fucking clever. It was creepy. Like, yes, the movie does a good job of like going in between, like hearing the sounds that a normal person would hear, and then also hearing from her point of view, which is nothing. You hear nothing, and that's really good. Like I said, it's kind of creepy. Like, you know, it's a great scenario. Like, this is one of those really clever scenarios. One of the most clever. I mean, I know it's been done before. Some people are like, oh, is this like Don't Breathe, or they invaded, like the movie where they invaded the blind guy's house? No, it's not like Don't Breathe. It's not. She's not a serial killer, for fuck's sake. She's just a normal woman who unfortunately ends up being deaf. Is also deaf and a mute. But man, I was like, that was also the guy. Was John Flanagan? What was his name? John Gallagher Jr. Hey, it was John Gallagher Jr. I know I've seen him in stuff before. I was trying to fucking remember off the top of my head. I know I've seen him in movies before. I'm sure anybody in the comments can tell me. He's really good. Like, you don't really... There's never given any... I was wondering... Like, I was reading going in, like, some of the reviews were... I saw one review that said, it's a really good movie, but the third act kind of falls apart. And I was like... So I was expecting, like, there would be some kind of twist about who he is. Like, maybe he was hired by her ex-boyfriend or something that you see briefly. I thought that was going to come into play. But no, he's just some random guy who's just fucking crazy and decides to terrorize this poor girl who's mute and deaf, and for no fucking reason. And you don't, like I said, nowadays, that is so fucking reassuring that's so refreshing nowadays, because horror movies just love to fucking over-explain the backstories of their serial killers. I can't stand that shit. The less you know, the better. It's that Hollywood needs to fucking learn that lesson. Like, and that, ironically, I'm about to fucking watch a fucking another prequel to Leatherface. So yeah, because we need that to happen. But I haven't watched it yet. I've heard not many good things about it. I've heard mixed things, but like I said, but like it's so refreshing. It's just like it's just a guy who's crazy, who really hasn't. You don't really know why he's doing it. He's just fucking crazy. You don't need a reason. It's like one of the reasons why I love the movie The Strangers. Strangers. The only reason the only reason they give that those guys and the strangers are harassing that couple in that movie is because they just felt like it's because they unfortunately they were the only ones home. That was it. There was no reason given. It was just they kind of did it for fun, because those people were home at that time. It's kind of fucking creepy. That's all you need to do. It's like you don't need an explanation. There's never like it's fucking realistic. Also, I like how because I was like I saw that John Gallagher Jr. was casted as the killer or as the guy who's harassing her, and I'm like, and he if you've seen the trailers for this movie and most posters of this movie, you just see him wearing that mask. He takes off that mask within 20 minutes. Literally, within 30 minutes of the movie, he takes off the mask and he doesn't wear it ever again. And it's like, oh, so you know who the guy is. It's not like it's not like it's trying to build a mystery of who this guy is. It tells you flat out who it is. It's nobody she knows, nothing. It's like, oh, all right. I kind of like that. And it becomes for the rest of the movie just a cat and mouse game of her trying to outsmart this guy who's hunting her. Like I said, I love as a filmmaking, a lover of film, a big fan of film, and also a big fan of horror movies. I fucking appreciate the hell out of this movie because the use of sound and also no sound at all. And almost no music at all. Because literally, there is barely any dialogue in this fucking thing. Barely. Not until not pretty much at the beginning when her neighbor stops by, do you get dialogue, and also one of her neighbors stops by halfway through the movie, which I'll get into too. That's really the only major dialogue that you see in this movie. It's mostly just ambient sound and just natural sound that you hear around her, and that's it. It's a really effective movie. And there's not a lot of music. There's not a lot of musical stingers when he's coming up upon her. They just let it play out. I love that. There was no ominous music while he was coming up, or anytime he would catch her or anything like that. They just let it play out. I fucking love this movie. It's really good. Damn it, this is a good movie. If there's anything I can complain about, and this is something, it's minor. Because there was, before I forget, there was also one cool part of this movie was, towards the end, she starts having all these voices in her, a voice. She talks about throughout the movie that she has a voice in her head that tells her, gives her ideas for endings to her books or whatever. And it kind of comes into play at the very end where the voice in her head keeps going through all these scenarios of her trying to escape or her just kind of hiding out in the house or whatever. And every idea that this voice gives her ends with her dying. And it's it's one of those scenarios that you're shit. At this point, you're oh shit. Because she's at this point is pretty injured and kind of gotten hurt at this point. You're there's no one scenario in this thing where she could easily survive this thing. To the point you're I was worried that for the first time in probably any home invasion movie where I didn't know whether she would survive or not. And I was I don't think this movie would have been as well received if this character didn't survive, because she's so likable. You want to see this poor girl get out of this situation. It's not you're next and you don't give a fuck about these characters. It's yeah, it's like this girl's, this poor girl is just a deaf mute girl who's just trying to live on her own and getting harassed, stalked by this fucking crazy guy. And it's like, man, like, you want to see this girl get out of the situation, but you're like, I'm not sure she will. And I like that. I guess that might be one of the reasons why some people didn't like the third act, maybe. But it's a very small part. And I was like, I thought that was actually kind of clever and kind of tied in with what she talked about earlier. In fact, like I said, if there is one thing I do want to talk about that was kind of stupid, was the part with the neighbor in the middle of the movie, because one of her neighbors comes by because he's looking for his girlfriend who stopped by earlier and it got murdered early on by the guy who's outside her house. And he comes across the guy, the crazy guy, and the crazy guy pretends to be a cop. Now, he doesn't have like a fake badge, isn't wearing any cop uniform, he doesn't have a gun. He just he looks like a normal guy in a hoodie. And this guy just believes he's a cop for about majority of their conversation until about. I feel like he does realize eventually that he's not, and it's like, I think he probably should have realized that a lot sooner, because a lot of things are a little I'd be a little suspicious. Like, he doesn't look like a cop. He has a bunch of fucking tattoos. I mean, I know cops have tattoos, but it's like got covered in tattoos, and he doesn't look like he's wearing anything. Doesn't have a fucking gun. Doesn't have a badge. I'd be asking fucking questions. This guy isn't even asking fucking questions. I'm like, dude, fucking ask questions. Don't just accept that this guy's a cop just because he told you, dumbass. But it's like, but he does realize it later, eventually. But I'm like, I think he realized a little too late. Actually, really, he definitely did realize it a little too late, spoiler alert. But yeah, I mean, I was like, man, he should have realized that a long fucking time ago. But yeah, that's just a kind of minor nitpick. I mean, it was just a stupid moment. Like any horror movie, there's always stupid moments in horror movies that you go, really. But other than that, this fucking movie's great. I highly recommend it. I really hope people if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's like I said, it's only an hour and 22 minutes. It's a fucking short sit, but it's worth all of it. Like I said, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's very good. Like, it gets going like within about 10 minutes of this movie. It just starts getting going. It doesn't waste any time. It just introduces the characters, the main character of this movie, and gives you a brief introduction, enough that you kind of know her, and enough that you kind of start giving a shit about her when bad stuff starts to happen. Like, it's a goddamn, this is a good movie. Highly recommend it. All right, so tomorrow I'm gonna be fucking exhausted by the end of tomorrow, because I'm gonna watch Leatherface. This was my plan tomorrow. I'm gonna watch Leatherface, part of Leatherface, take a break, go see Jigsaw, go home, review that, and watch the rest of Leatherface, and then review that, and then go to bed. Because I gotta go leave for North Carolina on Friday. So I got a busy day tomorrow. And it's 12 o'clock at night. So I'm going to bed. Good night. I'll talk to you guys later.